fabulous catering, wonderful restaurant. If you have not been to the Gateway Grill, you have to be. You own any other restaurants these days, Sean, or is that it? That's it. Sean's quite a guy. Just to tell you the story, you know, there is something very special about the spirit of people in this country. It's a remarkable country. Sean has kids of his own, and then there was a troubled situation in his family, and there were some other kids that needed a mom and a dad. How many kids did you adopt? He adopted 7 kids. Can you believe it? And thank you, Sean. He made room in his home for 7 adopted kids and cares for them. So, and then he comes out here and helps me with events like this, and then he runs the Gateway Grill and everything else. It's really something amazing about this country. Anytime you wonder about the future of America, you just have to think about some of the people you know whose hearts are so extraordinary, and you say that's why this country is the hope of the world. I've done business a lot around the country, around the world actually. I'm not a world traveler, but I've managed businesses overseas, and we bought some companies overseas that I had the chance to see how they worked. And I always found it interesting to try and understand why it is some countries do so well, why some people do so well, and why other countries don't do very well. And so I've read a lot of books on this over the years and talked to scholars and just said, why do you think it happens the way it happens? And one of the early books I read was from a guy named Jared Diamond. He wrote a book called Guns, Germs, and Steel. Very interesting book, very well cited and recognized. He said, look, if you look at the history of the world, he says, the nations that have been successful are those that have iron ore, because they can make metal and can make weapons, and they can kill their neighbors, and therefore they can be strong and protect themselves, and that's what accounts for differences between nations. And also, nations that have bad germs, like malaria and so forth, they don't do well. So he attributes all the differences between different peoples based on sort of the natural resources of what was in the ground when they got there. And I read the book, and I said, well, there's a lot to it, but somehow it doesn't capture it. Because you can think of nations that have come and gone, regardless of the circumstances of their topography. And so I've read other books on the same topic. One that I read most recently was by a guy named David Landis, who's a professor at Harvard, I presume a big liberal. I said that because on the jacket cover is this endorsement by John Kenneth Galbraith. So I figure, okay, if Galbraith likes this guy, he's got to be real liberal. But because I like the topic, I read the book, and it's kind of scholarly. After about 500 pages, though, he says something that really hit me. He says effectively this. He says, if you can learn anything from the history of the economic development of the world, it is this: culture makes all the difference. Culture makes all the difference. Because he looks at people and he says, look, people all have about the same average IQ, but some cultures, some belief systems of the people in a society allow it to grow and thrive, and other cultures just kill the people. And then you start looking at our culture as America, and you say, what is it that makes us the powerful nation that we are, and has led to our ascendancy? And in my view, there are a number of things. You could think of others, but it is that we are a people who believe in hard work. We value education. We're willing to sacrifice for our children. We are a family-oriented society. We will sacrifice enormously for the benefit of our kids and our grandkids. We'll sacrifice for freedom. We're patriotic. We are God-fearing people, by and large. Not all people in America believe in God, but most believe in something greater than themselves. And that combination of elements, including our sort of risk orientation, willingness to seize opportunity instead of looking for ease and dependence on a government, has enabled us to become the most powerful nation on earth. And so I look at this country and say, we will be well, we will overcome any challenge we face so long as we draw on the strength of the American people and on the heart of the American people, and so long as we protect and strengthen those cultural values. It's more than just a nice little window dressing. It is really the foundation of our economy and of our strength as a nation. Now, we face some challenging times, and you probably recognize that. Some things are of our own making. We're spending too much money in Washington. We can fix that. It will not be easy. Entitlements are the big problem. We are using too much oil. That's a problem because we spend $1 billion a day buying oil from people in other countries. That's a problem. Our schools aren't doing as well as our international competitors. Our healthcare system is leaving about 45 million people without insurance. That's a problem. Immigration laws aren't being followed. That's a problem. We're facing tougher economic competition from Asia than we have ever faced before from Europe. Europeans are easy to compete with. They're like us, you know. They like short work weeks, long vacation. We can compete with that. And perhaps the greatest threat, of course, is this threat of a slice of the world of Islam that is violent, that has as its intent dragging us back into the 8th or 9th century, that fundamentally believes that the women are chattel, that men are basically boors to run life as they wish, and they're intent on causing the collapse of civilization. There's that wonderful book by Samuel Huffington called Clash of Civilizations, and Tony Blair said, it's not a clash of civilizations. He said, that's not what the battle is. It's a battle about whether we will have civilization, because their intent is to remove modernity and civilization. So we face some real challenges, and I'm convinced we will rise to the occasion, as we always do. And the way we will rise to the occasion is by strengthening America and strengthening the American people. And that has a lot of components for me. It's strengthening our culture, insisting on work, improving our schools, getting our healthcare system so everybody's in it, not with a government plan. I don't want Hillary care. I got a great compliment the other day, or actually just yesterday, by Michael Moore. He said he saw my health care plan in Massachusetts and he hates it. I said, great, that's wonderful. He said it's based on personal responsibility instead of government care. Great! He likes Castro care better. So we're gonna keep our plan in place, and we will also be able to strengthen America by strengthening our economy. That's keeping government small, taxes low. I was on the phone half an hour ago with the former Prime Minister of Israel. I don't know what his job is now, Bibi Netanyahu. I think he stepped out of the government. He'll be running for Prime Minister. But Bibi told me the story. He said he came into Israel as finance minister. And by the way, I know him because we worked, our first jobs with the same company. At that time, his name was Ben Nateh. And he graduated from business school in America. He was working in the same firm I was. We knew each other, we're friends. Now he's Bibi Netanyahu, former Prime Minister of Israel. And so I hope to jump him one up. But anyway, he came in as foreign minister of Israel, and he said the economy was dying. And they were actually shrinking. GDP was shrinking every year in Israel when he came in. And he said, you know, as I looked at it and studied it, I realized that this was like the first day of basic training in the Israeli military. And he said, in the Israeli military, they lined us all up on a football field. I presume that's a soccer field. And they said, look at the person on your right, the soldier on your right, put them on your shoulders, and we're going to have a race. And he said he looked at the person on his right, and it was this huge guy. And he said, I could barely get him on my shoulders. I couldn't finish the race. He says the guy who won the race was the big guy with the little guy on his shoulders. And he said, government, that's the guy on your shoulders. And the employers, those are the guys that are running. And he said, when government gets too big, it just keeps you from competing. And so he tried to strip out government. We have to do the same thing. Keep taxes down, keep government small. So we strengthen our families and our values, we strengthen our economy, and we strengthen our military. There are bad guys in the world. There continue to be evil people. I think during the Clinton years, we took what Charles Krauthammer called a holiday from history. We said, there's no more bad guys. We can cut back on the military. We can take a peace dividend. Remember that term? We got the dividend. We did not get the peace. And there remain bad people in the world. We need to strengthen our military. So I'm set on a course of, if you will, strength for America. Strong military, strong economy, strong families and values. It is what I will fight for. I'm convinced that it's a very different posture than my Democratic opponent will take if I'm lucky enough to be the nominee. I think it'll be Hillary. Her view will be to reduce the military spending so she can fund the social programs that are growing substantially. Her idea will also be to increase taxes. They've already said that. The inconvenient truth of their debate the other night was that every person running for president on the Democratic side wants to increase taxes. And they always say, it's just on the wealthiest 1%, don't worry. The problem is the wealthiest 1% are investing in new enterprises and new ideas, just like everybody else in the country, and you take money out of the private sector and put it into the government sector, and you slow the economy. That's what happens. So she will weaken the military, weaken the economy. I don't think I have to tell you what would happen if Bill Clinton were in the White House with regards to family values. So we are the party